And we're back. So, as in a flurry of motion, this time you are on the deck of a ship surrounded by militia, who all look at you very confused.
Yeah, like I said, Elizabeth has shouted this out. It just goes, I know it's a ridiculously complicated and very long story that we really don't have time for right now, but there are civilian women and children on that ship. Do not shoot at it.
Make me a persuasion check.
For some reason, I closed my character sheet. That was smart of me.
Okay.
Pretty good.
There is a brief moment's hesitation before somebody on the deck calls out, "Cease fire!" And the cannons stop.
We should probably have a talk to the person in charge.
Yes, stepping forward, a woman in chainmail with a I can't remember what they're called. The helmets that cover like the top half of your face, but not the bottom half.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those helmets sort of steps forward and says, "I think there's a lot of explaining to do here."
And I will happily give that. Huh.
There is a lot to explain, but the short story is that ship has been disarmed. Their previous captain is no more. They're under new leadership. They've voluntarily given up all their weapons, which is partially the reason why you see this trail of barrels. You might want to steer clear or fish them out of the water. Those are, well, explosives.
Okay. The slightly longer but still short story. We are members of the Amber Eagle. We were hired by the council in order to investigate the cause of the storm that's been happening the last few days. We tracked the ship that had been anchored here and its skiffs to a small cove on the coast. Turns out they were basically raiding a stockpile.
The woman like waves her hands to stop you from talking.
Yeah, that was way too much.
Turns to the. I guess you know. I guess you would yell up to the lookout and say, "Sergeant, can you confirm that they're disarming?" At which point, the guy up in the crow's nest yells down, "Is they're leaking cargo left and right, and they aren't going anywhere fast." She pauses for a moment and says, "Sounds to me like we've got a lot of explaining to do back on the shore.
Yes.
Right now I need to know two things. I need to know two things. How many pirates are on board that ship? And second of all, who is in that second boat?"
Second boats are, well, we kind of overpaid in order to get out here early. Because we had a hunch you might simply fire away at their ship. We also released we also retrieved some what used to be prisoners, or hostages. We are not entirely familiar with them. However, one of them is an alchemist, and therefore I presume their capabilities of producing any more gunpowder in future will be hindered.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'd just say I'd just say the names of these two hostages, because Elizabeth probably remembers. I do not.
Dorian Hartspur and Larina, a bunch of names.
Yeah.
Elizabeth
probably
Larina,
remembers
a
those.
bunch of
I
names.
definitely do not.
And then there's a secondary captive whom we're not quite sure what is up with, but we decided to, well, free them anyway. Nobody wants to be held captive.
That second ship is civilians and the rest of our number.
Okay. And as far as the amount of pirates go, There
I mean,
would have been
yeah.
about.
How many? Yeah. Well, how many did we count on the deck?
Let's say there were about a dozen, perhaps, maybe slightly more. But
Yeah, that's underestimating slightly.
no,
but...
that's on purpose.
Okay.
Don't worry. However, upon learning of their, well, of the fact that they had a new captain, we persuaded them to pursue different routes. And then, well, we were kind of hoping to make it do it a little cleaner, the transition, but due to the cannon fire starting, things kind of had to be sped up, and instead of retrieving the gunpowder, we kind of had to, and the rest of their arms, we had to, well, kind of deal with issue, because otherwise that would have led to bad situations for everyone all around.
So you're telling me that you violated maritime law to sail into the direct firing line of a militia ship to retrieve hostages you don't even know who they are?
Actually, we
were there to make them give up the black powder.
Yeah, we came out here because we had a task from the council.
I'm gonna have to verify that.
Because, well, remember, if you may have noticed, the storm.
Very hard to have missed it.
Their old captain kind of was abusing the power of an old artifact in order to, well, wield that storm. The artifact has been destroyed.
Okay, this is way above my pay grade.
No, don't worry. We will. We need to
apologize 1,000 times over for all of this.
Like the council, we can definitely. Well, I assume the council has some say over the militia as well. So I'm assuming we're both heading towards them.
They pay us at the end of the day, but look.
Well, we're not heading anywhere.
Put it this way: the only reason I'm not slapping you and everyone else on that boat in irons right now is the man that you have on that boat. Because I could be wrong, but if he is who I think he is, then, well, you may have saved us a great deal of concern.
Well,
that ship certainly isn't going anywhere fast, so for now, let's just take this to the council.
Yes, this will. I will
happily do so.
I guess the question is, would you prefer us to head back to? Well, the other ship is heading over here because, well, we weren't quite sure how else to communicate with you until we had an idea.
Make our separate ways into dock. It's safer than trying to meet up halfway.
We should probably communicate that they should also head back to the dock.
I mean, I can do that easily.
As you wish.
Oh yeah, I forget sometimes.
Yeah, I will just quickly send Kelariis a message, like, situation kind of diffused, though we have explaining to do.
Okay, you receive that message. Roland is still sailing you towards the ship at top speed, so...
I'm gonna... I guess I will interpret that as we don't have to rush the ship anymore? I'm sorry, I'm thinking this out, and, like, trying to think of how Kelariis would interpret that, because there's not really a... Yeah, okay, I guess my response is, I guess we'll head back to port. And then I pass the message on and say...
Okay.
To Roland, just... Sounds like they've got things handled on that ship, we can head back in, it sounds.
Oh, good. Well, This has been an adventure.
Indeed.
Turns the wheel. And, yeah. Without further ado, the two ships sail back into port. You disembark. Roland sort of... As you get off the dock, you both dismount to like the sort of the same sort of area. Roland hastily makes his way across to you, Grim, and sort of says, "So, I believe we have a debt to settle."
I assume well, I guess we can't afford to pay in advance. I can give you. Well, I can offer you to come along to the council and maybe gain a bit of well, renown to some degree, or I can offer to pay you right now. What's it gonna be? Because you did an excellent job. Either way you'll get paid.
Yeah, he sort of pauses for a moment and sort of says, "You know, just in case it doesn't go in your favor, I think I'd prefer to be paid now."
Fair enough.
Okay.
Touche.
Give me a second. I need to get 300 gold out of my bag.
Yeah, you reach into this tiny bag in your waist, and they're just like, produce like a huge handful of coins, and he's like, "Oh, okay then, let me just get something to put that in." So you produce like literally 300 gold coins.
Like, well, unfortunately we haven't run into a lot of platinum recently, but
yeah.
300 gold is 300
like,
gold.
little pouches to group the gold in like hundreds or something.
Well, but it's like it all goes into the bag of holding anyway, so...
Yeah, but then you have to fish out like handfuls of just loose gold.
But then how will
I'm
Grim
sure
get his
we're-
satisfaction literally pouring gold into the bag of holding?
Yeah, that's
Honestly, we should get like at least 1,000 copper coins in there. Just so I can
Why?
just occasionally just throw some copper around and then, you know, make people
Are
happy.
you just like envisioning now, just like driving a cart through the streets, just throwing copper out at the people as they watch, like military
Yep.
parade, just like money for everyone?
Grim just making it rain with coppers.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I was thinking of like the Assassin's Creed thing where you can throw out coins to
Yep.
distract people.
Oh,
Hey,
God,
money!
Yeah, that too.
Pocket
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Whoosh. Way better than pocket sand.
That's at least one bludgeoning damage.
Yep. Not throw at people.
So,
Well,
you pay Roland. Grumwar gets off the ship and is like sort of. You've heard of the famous gold lust of the dwarves. You've never seen a dwarf whose eyes double in size when he sees the literal stack of gold that Roland is shoveling into a bag.
oh, and then I will also quietly say so that the mainly the militia down over here. You might want if you want to like remain in favor, you might want to return some of those grappling hooks. But I won't make you.
Yeah, Grumwar just sort of says, "Yeah, seems reasonable." Okay. So, as the captain steps down off the deck of the ship, comes down to you guys, and leans in, just says, I think it's best if I accompany you to..." Let me get my words out properly. I think it's best if I accompany you to the council chambers.
Of course, because well, till we figure this out, I guess we are to some degree criminals. But
She sort of like looks over you and sort of says, "Well, I can see from the people that you've brought with you, perhaps your intentions were good, but it'll be the council's decision.
There is one thing that we should do kind of urgently. I don't need to do this myself. You should probably inform people that, like, I'll explain where the cave is that we found, because there was still some gunpowder barrels.
Yes.
Pretty sure. There's still some barrels of gunpowder. We didn't quite have the means to bring those along, and just having them laying around is probably no good.
Like, as you begin to, like, she beckons like a bunch of militia over and starts to give orders and says, yeah, go and pick them up.
Yeah. It's not like it's hard, just follow the coast south.
But yeah. So, you are led to the council chambers through the now still rain slick, but beginning to dry cobbles of Casport. You enter the council chamber again. The dwarf in the waistcoat sort of turns as you enter, and the rest of the group is sort of admittedly a little happier looking, still engaged in vigorous debate. He sort of claps his hands as you enter. So you're back, and the storm is somewhat eased off. I can only assume you were successful.
It's quite the story.
Yes.
But we were successful.
Yes,
Well,
Captain, how can I assist? And the captain like sort of steps forward and says, Sir, I understand these mercenaries are working for you? He sort of says, working for us, yes, working for the city. They're on city payroll. I will ensure that your payment is delivered. What exactly seems to be the issue? And the guard captain sort of says, you know what, sir? It's nothing.
I mean, I would then. I'm probably going to proceed to tell the whole story.
Okay.
I don't like. There's nothing really that. I'm trying to think now if there's things that should be omitted.
see, there's one big part that is very questionable on our part,
Yeah.
and that is the whole. Well, because from a ethical point of view, returning the captives and all that stuff, very good. From a practical point of view, we left an enemy out there for. So, on the other hand,
I mean, I suppose you'd tell the whole story, but be a bit vague about the.
and I guess
Also, she doesn't know all the details of grabbing that ship in the first place, so she can't tell the details about it.
Well, I think you start to explain, and the dwarf sort of says, "There's plenty of time for that later."
My apologies.
Did I hear correctly? Oh no, wait, hang on. Yeah, sorry. There was a sentence there that I played in my head that was missed. Yeah, the guard captain sort of says, "It's nothing. There's some people here that you might be pleased to. Yeah, there's some people with them that you might be pleased to meet." She sort of steps aside, and the man in the ripped sort of like noble clothing sort of like steps forward. You begin to tell the story, and he says, "There's enough time for that later." And he says, "Forgive me, Mr. Hotspur, if I'm not mistaken." The man sort of nods, says, "Yes. Thanks to these individuals, I am returned." At which point the dwarf says, "Well, that is certainly most excellent news. I feel like there's a story to be told here. What happened to you?" And yeah, I guess Dorian Hotspur sort of tells a brief tale of being yeah, I guess being abducted is the best description of it. Being abducted as he travelled back from the I forget what the place is called. Traveling back from the Platinum Throne to Castport, being abducted and essentially being forced to tell the pirates all about the locations of the gunpowder storage, and then them slinging him in a hold and forcing him to arm and create ammunition for gunpowder weapons.
So basically, he's Tony Stark, except he didn't build himself an escape route.
Kind of.
Yeah. Some.
But yes, as you understand from this exchange, Dorian Hotspur is one of the alchemists behind the gunpowder weapons being developed along the Scale Coast. Yes, the exchange completes, and the dwarf sort of takes a step back and says, "Well, that is quite the tale. I am sure there are many people who will be glad to know that you are alive and well, and that the secret of gunpowder weapons is once again secure. This was somewhat of an unexpected surprise, I'm very happy to say. Had I known you were captive aboard that ship, I perhaps might have given some more. Let's say I wouldn't have ordered the guards to scupper the ship on sight." And he sort of holds up his hand and says, "Well, that nearly happened anyway, but fortunately it was thanks to these mercenaries that things will be able to be resolved." And the dwarf says, "Yes, and they will be handsomely rewarded for it." At which point Dorian says, "Is it alright if I am dismissed? I said, of course, please. You must be so tired." At which point, yeah, he takes his leave unless anyone stops him.
Not really, no.
Where's the gnome that we also? Is she? Also
She's just
there?
standing behind you. She hasn't said anything yet.
Oh,
She's still in a sack, I assume.
Yeah, it's like it's like she's wearing a sack as a dress, basically.
Fancy.
I'd lend her my cloak if it was smaller.
But yeah, the dwarf as well. Your efforts for the city of Castport are greatly appreciated. I will admit I was not expecting you to return successful quite so quickly. It may take me a small while to gather the disposable cash to pay you, I'm afraid, but I hope that's alright.
That shouldn't be a problem. There is one thing you might be able to assist us with instead.
If Dorian is safe and the threat is gone, then I feel like I owe you at least one favor.
Well, because the reason why we came to Castport, yes, Castport, is because we were seeking passage to a certain island know. Do we know the name of it? I keep forgetting what.
You do
we call
not. Sorry, say again.
Yeah, because I know we call it Demon Island, but I don't want to call it Demon Island.
Yeah, you don't know the specific name of the island.
Okay. It's a cluster of islands, right? Do those have a name?
Yeah, the Blackmount Isles is the group of islands. I'll take you to the world map.
Yeah, so we were seeking passage to one of the islands in the Blackmount Isles. However, we are also aware that where we're going, it is going to be dangerous. And well, the main thing we were hoping is that you would have some advice as to like where we might find passage to such a dangerous place. I know this might, or perhaps you could provide it.
Sort of furrows his brow and sort of says, Blackmount Isles. That's not a lot of people go there. It's not exactly safe sailing around those parts.
No, and I'll be honest. The reason why we're heading there is also because people are up to no good around there, unfortunately.
He sort of frowns and says, well, I've not heard of any illegal activities going on out there, but I suppose anybody crazy enough to set up shop at the Blackmount Isles is probably good enough to keep it quiet. Gee, I don't really know how to help you, I'm afraid.
Well, in that case, we will figure that out ourselves. I'm sure we will find someone. However, I thought it was worth a shot.
Well, if you want charts or anything, we have a library of old charts and things like that. If you're, I don't know how accurate they are, but they might be of use to you.
That would be most appreciated.
I'd quite like to see those. Comes a small voice from behind you.
Oh, Elizabeth was about to say something, so she just turns around and is like,
Yeah.
Oh. I was about to say the same thing.
Like, the gnome sort of steps forward and says, sorry to interrupt, I just... The old and unexplored places of the world are somewhat of an interest to me. I'd quite like to look at those charts.
Okay.
The dwarf sort of like seems taken aback and says, I don't see why that can't be arranged. You'd still need to find somebody who's willing to take you, but sure.
Yes, well, we shan't bother you with a problem you cannot solve then.
Yes.
Well.
Well, we'll be. Well, I guess we'll stop by before we leave, and then if you.
I can have a messenger let you know when the funds have been collected. It shouldn't take any more than a day.
Oh, okay. No, we will probably take more than a day to find passage and plan our trip.
Yeah,
anyway.
I feel like I need a day just to recover.
Stu,
Well,
don't worry about that.
Mr. Daemaris, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's been an
Daemaris.
absolute pleasure doing business with you.
It's been great doing business with you too, sir.
Grasps you firmly by the hand.
Strong grip.
Yep.
Very important.
Yeah, and with that, you step out of the council chambers.
As soon as we're outside, Elizabeth turns to the gnome and just goes, Pray give us more information about this interest, for I am greatly interested in the interest.
So I'm assuming from what you guys were talking about, you want to go to the Fiendish Isle, right?
That sounds like a pretty good description for the place that we would like to go.
Yeah, it's big island haunted by monsters.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Sound checks out.
Like might be a strong word, but yes, that is where we're heading.
Well,
Well, I mean, I'm after you guys have kind of saved me from pirates. I'm not going to question why you would want to go into a place that is quite possibly a death trap, but yeah. So the whole reason I ended up with those pirates in the first place is well, I used to live up north in Mountain Shade. But to be honest, I got kind of bored of living up there in the big city, so I kind of wanted to sail down the coast and learn some stuff about the world. But let's just say the pirates waylaid my ship. The captain didn't fancy giving up his crew or his gold, so they sunk us. That big old storm of theirs. And took me captive. And yeah, I never really got to finish my exploration, but the Blackmount Isles, they're kind of fascinating, really.
I suppose a question before we get too much into discussions about our interests. Would you like better clothes?
Oh, gee, yeah. My clothes were kind of ruined in, being shipwrecked and everything. So the Dragonborn didn't really have anything that fitted me. So I just kind of wore this.
Yeah, should we get you something? I'd happily take you to get something proper before we have this discussion, if you'd like.
I mean, I don't have any money, but
I would happily pay. It's fine.
I feel like we can accommodate someone for a little while and then just bring you along
that'd be mighty generous.
for a little bit.
Not to the islands, though.
I wouldn't want to go there.
I don't blame you.
My interest is purely in observation.
So, considering
if I see you when we get back, I will happily tell you what I saw there.
Also, I assume that being a prisoner wasn't exactly luxurious, so...
Not exactly.
Considering we're all kind of beat up to some degree, shall we head to the inn and get something to eat? Just
that might be a
all
good
of us?
Yeah. A warm bath, considering that a lot of us took a dip in the ocean.
Yes, warm bath, warm food, and a warm bed is all I could really ask for right now. And honestly, she'd probably look down at her own rather nice clothes and say, getting struck by lightning kind of does ruin your clothes.
Yeah, you guys certainly look like you've been through the wars.
So honestly, I wouldn't mind picking up something for myself while I'm there.
If it's okay for me to tag along,
Well, we wouldn't want to abandon you just in the city.
that's
Besides,
Yeah.
I feel like you have
That'd be somewhat cruel.
Also, I feel like you have stories to tell, so we might as well. We might as well listen, because not everybody knows about the Fiend Isles. Apparently, the Fiend Isle.
Yeah.
We just learned.
well. I can tell you one thing. That's not its real name.
Yeah, I gather that does sound more like a nickname.
What's its
Okay.
real name then?
It's called Latherman's Cay.
That is a name.
Elizabeth, can you make me a history check?
I can. Pretty good.
Latherman rings a bell. You've read about Latherman.
Yeah, well in that case, at that name, Elizabeth's just like rubbing her chin and is like tapping her foot agitatedly, like I should remember that.
It's definitely in a magic textbook somewhere.
Do I know if it's one I have? In that case, I'm going to be spending a lot of time looking through all my books.
Yep. That would best be done when you're back at the
Yeah, obviously.
Well,
lodging.
I assume like we're kind of walking, talking right now.
Yeah.
because-
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we need. Well, yeah. Let's get some clothes. Let's get our new friend clothed.
Might as well get some spare myself.
Okay. So, I guess yeah, if you want to go and buy some clothes, get some food, have a bath, your individual food is pretty much already paid for in your hotel tab. So maybe a couple of copper pieces might suffice to purchase a meal for your new friend. And maybe a silver or two to buy some new clothes. Yeah, it would probably be 2 silver because finding fitting Gnomish clothes in a human town would be a bit of an effort, but it's doable.
Well, as long as it's like fits to some degree,
Yes,
it's okay.
better than sack.
I just get an oversized sweater. It's always
Yeah.
perfect.
Wow.
Cool. So after maybe an hour or so out in town, you head back to the hotel. Tiff disappears off somewhere and gets changed. Comes out in a basically like a I guess it would be like in this sort of climate it would be like a thick thick fur jacket and like heavy short trousers and a pair of boots. Comes out and sort of sits down with you guys, happily wolfs down whatever food is put in front of her. Whilst Elizabeth, presumably you go through your books.
Yes.
Give me an investigation check. Okay, so after
Roll above a 10, please.
after flicking through a couple of books, you do find a handful of mentions of Lathaman. Lathaman is mentioned in a couple of books that reference enchanting, and all of a sudden you have a recollection concerning Lathaman and his history, in that Lathaman is or was more accurately a first age arcanist. So the precursors to any of the wizard schools being established, like the arcanists were basically just people who had mastered schools of magic, and there's a lot of famous ones out there like Mordenkainen, Leomund, etc. And Lathaman is sort of mentioned amongst these people as an expert of enchantment, illusion, and evocation. And you recall as you read it, you remember why, or at least partly why Lathaman is less commonly mentioned than perhaps the other ones. As history textbooks state that, like, Lathaman and Mordenkainen were once sort of they did a lot of enchantment research together, and up until Lathaman basically accused Mordenkainen of stealing his work. There was a big academic dispute. Nothing was ever proven, but Lathaman's reputation tanked, and he kind of disappears off textbooks after a certain point. But yeah, that's what you recall
Yeah.
and discover.
Yeah, Elizabeth would basically say each little bit as she finds it.
Okay.
Like she presumably finds the relevant parts
And then starts to
reads
recall
them
bits.
aloud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, what exactly was the island called again? Because I missed the
Lathaman's
second part.
Cay. So. Oops.
Yeah, okay.
That was only slight. Oh.
So yeah, once she's like presumably read the last of her books.
Yeah.
And there's now probably just a pile in front of her on the table. She just sort of sits back and goes, I knew that name sounded familiar.
Through a mouthful of food, Tiff says, he sounds fascinating.
Yeah. Well, like you were talking about, like the island here. And also you mentioned that like you might be able to help to some degree.
Yeah, I'm kind of good with maps.
That's always nice.
Yeah, and I had to read them. I'm pretty good at drawing them.
Yeah, I feel like a map's probably exactly what we need right now.
Well, if the council are willing to let you look at the excuse me, willing to let you look at the old charts, I'm sure there'll be something in there concerning the islands, because Blackmount Isles are really interesting because they're not really islands. They're basically the tips of volcanic mountains that just poke above the surface. So everything underneath that is just a huge mass of coagulated molten rock that's just spilled into the ocean. So they're basically like reefs and hidden rocks and stuff everywhere. But supposedly all of the people who used to live on those islands had special ways of finding their way through all of the rocks, because they had these big long boats that they would sail to and from the mainland, back and forth from the islands. So there must be a way to get in there. It's just a case of finding the right map and working it out.
Well, if you'd be willing to assist in this, that would be most appreciated.
Sure. That's the least I can do.
They're not active volcanoes anymore, though, right?
I'm not a geologist, but I guess.
Would I have, like, I know that I was obviously from, like, further down south, but is that anything that I would have heard of, I guess?
Make me a history check.
Okay. No.
Okay. Yeah. No, you have only heard stories of the islands off the coasts. You've never heard of eruptions for years, so.
But yeah, Tiff. Now that you're here, there's one important question that we haven't really asked you yet.
Shoot.
Do you have anywhere to go? Or do?
Not really. I mean, the whole point of leaving home was that I didn't really feel like it was home. But the place I was going, I'd need money to still go, and all of my money is, well, kind of on the bottom of the ocean.
Where were you going? Like, did you have a specific destination in mind?
Well, I was sort of just heading down the coast, but I was kind of interested in going to a place called Cindershell Landing. It's all the way down in the south, and it's supposed to be like this massive melting pot of all different cultures, like orcs and dark elves and all sorts of things. And I kind of wanted to just like, find out more about those kind of places. I mean, they always seem so strange because you hear all these stories about the different kinds of people that turn up in those places.
Oh. Well, I guess we'll figure out a little more once. We might as well figure it out now.
Well, there isn't really a whole lot to figure out.
Well, like, we don't. Like, I assume I'm speaking for all of us when I say, kind of don't want to leave you as nothing. But I guess we could either could give you some kind of reimbursement for helping us out with the maps. And
I mean, you guys kind of saved my life. I feel like I'm the one who owes you.
Well, that's just the way it. But at least but like by not giving you anything, we might kind of be.
We'd feel bad if we left you with nothing, even if we did save your life.
For example, the Dorian Hearthspur clearly has something to fall back on, whereas you seem to. Well, setting out on your own is not easy. And,
I mean, I kind of done it before, but I mean, admittedly, I had a little bit more money because I had a job for a while. But I mean, she sort of like gestures around, so says, "I never exactly had the kind of money to live in places like this, but I had enough to sort of scrape by." And I mean,
but we'll just figure. We'll probably just we'll make sure we'll just give you a little bit to get going. And,
I mean, I feel like you guys have
however,
already given me so much.
well, truth be told, if you and Dorian Hearthspur were not on that ship, we might have been in a little bit more trouble than we were.
I don't see how that works.
We may have broken some rules, and and we may have been slightly forgiven by the captain.
Yeah, don't include me in that.
Well, no, we're all a company together. We're part of a mercenary company together. They wouldn't exactly have excluded any of us from that.
Oh no, they wouldn't have, but
Well, but yeah. So, you've in some way you did help us out. But regardless, I guess I might as well, considering everything, I might as well make the offer that I always or I often do.
God damn it, Grim.
Well,
God damn
if
it,
you if you find yourself a little clueless as to what to do or where to go, perhaps the Amber Eagle might have a spot for you. I'm not quite sure how we'll put your cartography skills and that kind of stuff to use, but I'm sure we'll find uses for it.
So hang on, you're offering me a job?
I'm offering you one for if you if you ever need if you need one. You don't have to accepted at any point.
I mean, I'm kind of in need of one now, and I mean, I'm good with maps and places and learning stuff, and
The only reason
I don't really know
I'm
unless you have like use for somebody who, I don't know, like draws up grand plans of things. I don't.
Yeah.
I mostly do like design and stuff.
I would have thought that a mercenary company would have great use for someone who draws maps and comes up with grand plans.
Would help.
I mean, I know Von Dahl's very good at planning, but I don't think he's much for drawing maps, and I'm sure even he would appreciate a bit of help sometimes. We do give him a lot of work.
There is one thing I will warn you. If you're a fan of the sea, we are quite far inland.
I mean, the sea I can kind of give or take. It's just
The traveling.
And there is one project, although I'm not going to promise anything, that I have in mind that would be interesting. Because there's one place that I'm pretty sure has not been mapped very well that I would very interested in mapping slightly better. That would be the Feywild. However, admittedly, that is something that is.
oh man, that's an ambitious project.
That is something that is probably several years from now, so that would not be something that happens quick.
Several years from now and several years in the making.
I mean, yeah, that's not a simple task. I mean that. Huh.
No, but
I mean, if you're offering me a job, then I'm not really in a position to turn it down, and I'd be quite thankful for the chance to pay back you guys for all the help you've done.
That's an important part. I do not want you to take the job because you want to pay us back, because that's not something you have to worry about. But I will leave it to you as an option.
See, think of it like this: there are plenty of people in this world who will just take, won't give anything back. They'll just take. So there has to be some people in the world who'll just give and not expect a reward in return.
Wow,
What I'll
that's
do-
such a high praise of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I
What I'll
mean,
do-
to be fair to us, we have turned down rewards several times.
Yes, you have.
Like what I'll do is I have some parchment. Unfortunately, I don't have much paper on me. I'll
I've
scribble
got
a
paper.
note. Because I'll just scribble a note onto it, and then if you ever want to join, you just all you have to do is head over to the Amber Eagle in Ivywood Market. Present this to Von Dahl.
You should recognize him. He's the grumpy middle-aged dwarf.
It's not that grumpy.
Well, no, he's
not
not
that
always grumpy.
grumpy.
It depends how overworked he is that day.
And then you're pretty much in.
Okay.
But
Sure, I'll think about it.
In the meantime, I think we all need some rest, and then in the morning we've got some charts to look at. And she's like excitedly rub her hands together.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. So,
Bagsy first in the bath.
What?
Unless there's more than one bath, I don't know.
I mean, there's probably more than one bath, but they're basically just like tubs that they get out and fill with hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even a fancy place like this close to the coast, it's unlikely that it's plumbed. And it's definitely not magic. It's not that kind of place. But yeah, so you guys rest up. You can remove a level of exhaustion, restore hit points, spell slots, and one half of your hit dice.
Hooray!
Recover everything.
Right.
And yeah, the next day. Are you all heading to go and look at these charts, or are you going to split up?
I feel like it'll.
Be better to split, right?
Yeah, although.
But yeah, it'd be probably better if some people look for charts while other people start the search for someone crazy enough to sail us to the Blackmount Isles.
And I trust Elizabeth to that was the maps together with Tiff.
Okay. So, Elizabeth and Tiff go to the council offices, and the rest of you go in search of a sailor crazy enough to take you.
Good luck to us.
Although there is one thing that we still haven't agreed on. So we had the extraction through Genie, but we didn't decide if we could if we would go for the drop off and pick up, or for the just sail out there and then have the boat stay there and then get picked up, or so that they are there at all times, pretty much.
The boat.
Yeah, the boat. Like, do we get basically a boat to come by twice at a set point of time, or do we get a boat that stays till for a certain amount of time till it gives up, pretty much?
Let's just buy a boat.
Learn how to sail.
Yeah, boats are absurdly expensive, and I don't think there's not many boats I think that would get us there safely that can only be sailed by 4 people.
I feel like the class of boat that we'd need
Yeah.
would probably be 10,000 or so.
Yeah, the biggest problem is manning the boat,
Yeah.
because none of you are proficient in ocean vehicles.
Yeah, none of us know how to sail.
How different can it be from a land vehicle, right?
Well, for starters, it doesn't have wheels.
It's not pulled by horses.
Yeah.
Just hook up some dolphins or whales or something.
I mean, let us not forget the last time you sailed anywhere significant, you did sail a considerable portion of the distance towed by turtles.
Yeah, but that's because we had, our half-dried sorceress with us.
Yup.
We very much don't have her with us now.
So, what is the decision?
I guess it will depend on the captain.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can just ask what they're most comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because
also, how far is it from here? Like, how long does it take to sail between?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, considering the distance, I don't remember how long it took you to get to Port Carthel sailing. I think it was like
2 weeks.
Something like that.
Was it 2 weeks, or wasn't it more like a month, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can try to check if I have it.
it was-
Give me a second.
It was elongated by the fact that there was no wind. But like the plan, I'm pretty sure the estimate was 2 weeks at the time.
Oh yeah, no, because it was a month to walk it, wasn't it? Or to go on horseback, because you have to go round the mountains and through the jungle. So yeah, it might have been 2 to 3 weeks. So to sail to the Blackmount Isle, it will take you a couple of days.
Well,
Which means, actually, if we're going to have them just sail us there and then come pick us up at a set date, that set date is going to have to be quite significant, otherwise they'll just be sailing back and then immediately setting off again.
I think the biggest problem that we have is we have no clue how long we're going to be there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, from a DM perspective, one of the suggestions I will give to you is you know that between Willow River and Castport there is a fairly well-established trade route. Because, basically the entirety of trade between the Curran coast and Castport is done via the route to Willow River, which will cross basically next to the Blackmount Isles to the point where it would be no more than a handful of hours detour to come away from the coast to go out to the Blackmount Isles. If you wanted to do that, your best bet would be to find somebody who consistently sails between Castport and Willow River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess the problems, getting there is not hard. Like, the problem is, how do you get a reliable pickup
Yeah.
if you have no idea how long you're gonna be gone, and if things go wrong, it might be a little bit of a big move to have them stop by for like ever.
I mean, we probably give them like a set number of days, or like a set amount of time, and if they don't see or hear from us in that bit, they can just assume that we got fucked up and that we're not coming back.
Or that we either escaped otherwise, or something else is going on.
Yeah, because what I would say is, if you know the captain, you can perhaps message the captain and let him know, hey, the next time you're coming along, we'll need pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does leave you potentially waiting for a space of a couple of days, because it's like a week's journey to Willow River.
Right.
Yeah.
But like a couple of days is, at that point, probably isn't going to be the worst thing to wait.
No. We just have to find somewhere on the island to lay low.
Which I feel like we're
Well,
kind of terrified about the fact that was going to be extremely hard.
yeah, but
Well,
surely your panic button is getting out with the genie.
Yeah.
So I guess we have that covered.
Yeah, so if we're in trouble, we get out with the genie. If we're not in trouble, we get out with the boat when he next comes by. And if we need the panic button in the time between messaging him and him arriving, we just message him again saying, "We're still okay. We found
Cancelled.
another way out." Yeah.
So I
Your
guess
services are no longer required, etc.
I guess the best thing to do would be to stop by the what's he called? The person that is in charge of the port, the one that keeps track of all the boats and stuff.
Harbour Master.
Yeah, the harbor master.
Jürgen Harbour.
Like, I'm pretty sure he can probably help us figure out who we should talk to.
Can't wait to go have this conversation with the harbor master, and they're gonna be like, "The fuck?"
Yeah. Okay, so I guess Elizabeth, make me an investigation check with advantage for Tiff assisting you. Okay. So you go into the chart room with Tiff, and there are basically there's a significant number of maps of important places and things, and you find that yes, there are a number of sea charts that are very carefully organized. You go through what's available, and you find nothing. Until Tiff basically like pauses and points out and says, "No, none of these are good enough. these are all way too new. We need something much older. And the two of you split off and go looking for anything that is particularly old. And after you've spent like maybe an hour, 2 hours searching for the right thing, you spot out of the corner of your eye there is a locked glass cabinet right tucked away in the back of the room, to the point where it's very difficult to see because it's basically being used as a desk for other things. And inside that glass cabinet are a number of sealed scroll holders with various nautical depictions on the scroll holders.
Okay.
Thanks, Luka.
It's been a while since that happened.
Sorry.
That's right.
It happens.
Okay.
So what are you doing?
I guess you probably just call out. Hey Tiff, is this more what we're looking for?
Tiff scurries over. That certainly looks like sea charts of some kind. Sort of like looks around, like jiggles it a little bit, and sort of says, I think it's open.
Can I try opening it?
Okay. Yeah. You sort of pull the thing. You have to clear the big piles of books and other things off the top. But it does appear that despite the large brass lock on the front, it is open, and you sort of lift it up. At which point the member of staff in the room is sort of like, "Oh, please don't touch those. Those are very, very old."
What if old is what we're looking for?
That's as may be, but these are very delicate. One of a kind. Should only really be handled by supervised individuals.
Then can someone help us look through them?
I mean, I suppose I can do that. The woman sort of like asks you to step aside, reaches in, sort of like puts on a pair of fine gloves and takes one out and says, "So what is it that you're looking for?"
I've instantly forgot the name of the islands now.
Lathamond Cay is the island you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking for charts for Lathamond's Cay.
She says, sort of looks at you bewildered for a moment and says, I don't know where exactly that is, but it's like holds them up.
Well, it's one of the Blackmount Isles.
Blackmount Isles. One moment. Just sort of like reaches in, uncorks one and says, I think this might be it. And like very carefully unfurls it on the nearby table and says, okay, so just take a look, but I'm afraid I can't let you handle it in any way.
Like, Elizabeth makes a show of putting her hands behind her back before leaning over to have a look.
And yeah, as it unfurls in front of you, oh, that's very blurry. Load in, thank you. There you go. I did drop you onto the page, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
You can see it. Okay, cool. Yeah, you are presented with the following map.
May I ask how old this is?
The staff member sort of says, this thing is, it probably dates all the way back to the First Age. It's probably over like 1,000 or so years old. In fact, possibly even 2,000. I don't know when this was originally drawn, but it came to be with us, or at least in the town's possession, 1,000 or so years ago. And you can see that, yeah, the whole thing is very delicate. It is potentially in danger of disintegrating.
Yeah. Well, this settlement's not labelled then.
There are no labels.
Oh, it's just a map.
The drawings seem to be heavily stylized. But Tiff, looking over, sort of says, I guess she sort of like leans into you and sort of says, so I think I know how they mark. I think I know how they mark things that are underwater on these things.
Oh.
It's. And she like turns to Marissa and says, would you mind awfully extinguishing the torches in this room? She sort of like looks at her like, why would you want me to do that? She's like, just an experiment.
Glow in the dark ink.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth would say, I'd happily relight them again. If it turns nothing up.
Give me a persuasion check.
Oh, that was an advantage. Still a 13.
Okay.
I keep forgetting to turn advantage off.
Yeah. She steps away from him and says, okay, but I still can't let you touch it or anything.
Yeah, Elizabeth will like hold her hands up like,
Yeah.
I will stand here like this until you get back.
Okay. So she goes and dims the
I'll
lights.
Slightly nudge Tiff as well to be like,
Yeah.
don't touch it.
So yeah, the lights are extinguished, and eventually you are standing in a dark room in which the only light is basically coming in through shaded windows and from the door at the opposite end of the room. And Tiff says, basically, we need to, I guess, illuminate it from a particular spot, probably from where the what's it called? Where the compass rose is. Ordinarily, I'd say with a candle, but we obviously can't do that.
Ooh, Elizabeth goes, I may be able to help with that, and I would like to get out a coin and cast light on it.
Okay.
And just say, would this do?
It might. Thank you. Sort of reaches out, takes it.
Yeah.
Just sort of like walks over to the side and holds it above the compass rose. And yeah, your passive perception's pretty good, right?
Yeah. My passive perception is 17.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see, as it's held over the compass rose, there is indeed what looks like almost like pen strokes that appear below the water, or like within the water, that seem to denote areas that are impassable, that are like hatched through.
Yeah, then Elizabeth will definitely say, yes, I can definitely see something.
Tiff will go, hang on, I've got an idea, let's swap.
Okay. Take the coin.
Okay, you swap places. And Tiff will begin to sketch. Okay. It's going to take her quite a while.
That's fine.
But yeah. Tiff will begin to sketch you a copy of the map of Lathaman's Cay.
Hooray!
Meanwhile, the rest of you. You are heading to find the Harbour Master. Sure enough, located within a building overlooking the harbour is a fairly senior-looking human man who sits back in like a tall-backed wooden chair. Greets you as you come in and sort of says, morning, folk. How can I help you all?
Good morning. We are looking for someone that regularly travels between here and what's it called again?
Let me take you back to the world map for a moment. Willow River, yes.
Yes. And Willow River.
Someone specifically?
Well, the thing is, we're hoping that they'd be willing to make a detour of like a few hours to drop us off, like along the Blackmount Isles. And we thought this might be our best shot at it.
He gets a more sort of like serious look on his face and says, "You want to go to the Blackmount Isles?"
Yes.
Let me guess, you're treasure hunters?
No.
Unfortunately not.
Well,
You're
then I'm not
Monster
quite sure what business you have in the Blackmount Isles, but presumably you've heard the stories. Nobody who goes there ever comes back.
Oh, that wouldn't be the first time we've
Heard that
beaten
one.
the legends or stories.
No.
No, we are aware of the reputation.
Yeah, I've heard tell that there's a couple of people who have been brave enough to sail there, but they always claim to see things that are horrific enough to send them packing tails between their legs. I'm not entirely convinced I believe any of them who say they've been there.
No, that is part of the reason why we were hoping that somebody would just be willing to drop us off instead of. Yeah, we didn't expect anyone to want to sail there, and then because we would have. Because we would have a way to get picked up potentially, which is the hard part, of course. But yeah. No, we would we weren't sure like how big of a problem it is for captains. We were
Well,
hoping like a simple drop off would be doable.
if you want somebody who's, I'm not sure brave is the word, but let's go with brave enough to sail close to the Blackmount Isles, who frequents the passage between Willow River and here, I think you could do it for the right gold. How much are you looking to spend?
Well, we're not quite sure. Well, we've got a budget, but we don't want to. Well, well, we're going to try to keep it as low as possible, of course, but we do recognize the fact that it is potentially dangerous from what the stories say, or at least terrifying. So we do not want to leave them uncompensated for their delays. What would you? Well, I guess you would have experience in these kind of things. What would be a reasonable price in your experience?
Well, if you just want somebody to go out of their way to drop you off, you're probably not looking to spend more than 30, 40 gold. If you're expecting them to hang around and pick you up, then maybe a little more. Your trick is finding somebody who's brave enough to do it for a decent price. Honestly, if you're going up that way, the person I'd talk to would be Captain Talbot.
And when you said 40 to 50 gold for a drop-off, is that per person or just for
per stop?
General... Per stop. Oh, that would be... That's a reasonable price.
Meanwhile, we paid these schmucks 300 gold to
Yeah.
do like one thing.
Yeah, well, we paid them 300 gold to approach a warship that was being chased by another warship.
Yeah.
And you needed it done right the fuck now.
Yeah.
Breaking the maritime
I still would have
laws.
gone in at like 100 gold and see
Yeah.
where that got us.
I get why we went so high so quickly, but also
See, I feel like if I'd lowballed them, they would have been pissed afterwards. I feel like the 300 gold kind of made up for it.
Well, the 300 gold made them do it and ask no questions, so
Yeah, exactly.
you got exactly what you wanted.
So I think if we hadn't offered as much, they would have probably asked a lot more questions and been a little more hesitant. It's like,
Yes. You also would have lost a lot more time, because you had a lot of time ahead of that warship.
and still it felt so quick.
Yep. Well, think how much less time you would have had if you hadn't.
They need slower warships, to be honest.
No, they don't. But yes, the Harbmaster says, Captain Tolban is your best bet, at least in my opinion.
When would the Captain Tolban be in Castport?
Sort of looks at the calendar and says, what day is it? Well, she got out of here before the storm hit, so she'll probably be back in 2 days, 3 days.
Excellent.
She'll probably turn it around. Usually takes her less than a day, depends on her cargo, but
Well, she's a quick one then.
she's got a fine crew. Built up a lot of years of experience. I'll warn you, she's well, they don't call her the Firebrand for nothing.
Oh.
Just watch how you speak to her.
Well,
Out of character, I love her already.
it's best not to.
no, sorry, go on.
Oh, okay. As in, yeah, well, I find it's best not to anger those who's helped you seek to acquire. But yes, would be much appreciated. I was thinking, because once they dock, they will most certainly they will need to speak to you, I assume.
They'll be here to pay their tariffs and a few other odds and ends that need attending to.
They do that as they arrive, right? I'm not too familiar with.
Usually she sends a runner, but pretty much.
Like, would you be willing to send us a message? Of course, like I would happily pay you a little for this service. Just send a message to the what's it called in?
Yeah, I
Something
forget.
Opal. Starlight Opal.
Starlight Opal, yes.
The Starlight
Okay.
Opal.
Yeah.
Once they arrive, or at least once you get word.
Sure, I'll send a runner boy. You pay him as he comes, and
Well, I guess. That's pretty much it.
well, I wish you luck with Captain Tolban.
Oh, thanks. Also, thanks for the assistance.
Not a problem.
Well, I'll give him a gold coin. Like,
Thank you very much.
it's much appreciated.
Puts it in his top pocket. Okay. Cool. So I guess after the couple of hours elapse in the council chambers, the rest of you regroup. And yeah, Tiff, with quite a satisfied look on her face, presents you, Grim, with the above map, or the map that I'm now displaying to you.
So,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, you can see how we got on. How did you guys get on?
We have a lead. It's 2 to 3 days from now, and we might potentially have a ride.
I'm taking that to mean they're not here, but you've heard of them somehow.
Well, they've been recommended to us as someone who might be willing to do this, and yeah.
Well, if it's going to take them a few days to arrive, that gives me time to do a little something I wanted to do.
Excellent.
Because well, if they've given us access to that library, I want to see what else they might have on
Well,
Atherman's Cay, if anything.
also, as a small side note, like you got the map, right? And we were told that it was going to be dangerous to approach the island.
Yes.
So perhaps we should get us an extra map that we can leave with the captain, so that when they, like, if they get to pick us up, that we don't leave them. Well, that so both we and them have a map as to where and. That would
If
probably
you
be
have
good.
some more ink, I can make another copy.
Like, I think that would be wise.
Oh, it'd be a lot
I
easier
believe-
than working from the other one because I can just trace this one.
I carry ink with me. Because of course I do.
Thanks.
Yes, you can have some of mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give her one of my bottles of ink.
Okay. Do you actually have one on you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
Cool.
Yeah, I have 2 on me actually.
Okay. Deduct one, and then
Yeah.
she'll use that to copy the map. Cool. Yeah, it'll take her a little while, but
Yeah, obviously.
I guess. What do the rest of you want to do? Do you need anything? Supplies, etc.
Well, we did buy a ton of food to begin with.
Yeah. How much do we have?
We have, I think, we might want slightly more, but we have 60, I believe. 60 rations.
Not the worst.
Well, divided by 4 is 15 days.
I mean, ideally we'll be out of there by that time, right?
I would
I mean,
hope so.
Also, that's 15. That's 15 days extra. I'm pretty sure we all have rations in our inventory still.
Mine have definitely run out.
Yeah, I think we've all just kind of piled them into the bag of holding at this point.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth might be the only person who has rations left.
But I mean, again, when I haven't used all my spell slots, I can also make us food, so like we can kind of
Yep.
stretch that out a bit longer as well.
Yeah, I will also point out the scale of Lathaman's Cay. It might take you a day to walk from one end of the island to the other. It's not super huge.
Okay.
Like just top to bottom, or like if we went diagonal. I mean,
At the length.
West or
So you obviously can't walk from east to west because of the fucking mountain range. But if you were able to, like that would take a day. So it would take you like a day to walk up, like maybe around and.
okay, I see.
The only thing I realized is the amount of times that we go camping or that we stay outside and we realize that somebody doesn't have a bedroll, a blanket, or some other thing. We should probably make sure everybody has what they need in that.
But we have tents, don't we?
Yeah, but like you can have a tent but without a bedroll, or it's still...
Yeah, you still need like bedrolls and stuff.
Yeah.
and
You should
it's
make
just
sure
a
you have them
one-time-
if you have them.
It's a one-time purchase, but I'm pretty sure we've forgotten every single time.
Yeah.
Most of us had them before, though. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
primarily V and Vondal that didn't have them.
Of course, Vondal didn't fucking have a bedroll. God damn it, Vondal.
God damn it, Vidal.
Treasury couldn't bear such expense.
Well, no, it's because he just had the priest pack, and the priest pack doesn't come with one.
Yeah.
But does Elizabeth have one? Because otherwise I think everyone has one.
No. I thought I did, but apparently I don't.
Time to buy
I
one.
probably don't have one either. But it might be me just being foolish.
Maybe just not listing. No,
I
'cause,
think
like,
you should
you had
have
an
one.
Explorer's pack, right?
Yeah.
That comes
I
with
might.
a
I may have gone with the Dungeoneer's pack because I had a crowbar and stuff.
Oh yes, possibly.
Yeah.
'Cause
that would
I
make
had
sense.
crowbar. I had kittens.
How much is a bedroll again?
It's a few silver. Wait. Oh, I can check quick.
Okay.
But yeah, that's not going to be the end of the world.
Does anyone want to do anything else other than shopping for minor stuff?
Hmm.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think there's anything major we need.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I have one cool idea. Would there be would there be a wizard in town? Like at 'cause
Hello.
well, you are a wizard, but you don't have what I would require because I'm looking to maybe enchant a helmet or something along those lines with eternal flame, so I have like a source of light that I can pull
but
out
you
of my
don't
bag.
have a source of light.
No, but like I can't see color.
No.
Like it's still like it's like I can see, but it's still not perfect.
So in
Although I guess never mind. Like a torch will do the same thing.
yeah, I'm gonna say in Castport there isn't a wizard of that caliber who would like openly offer that service that you are aware of.
Nah, I'm not gonna look for it that hard.
I mean, what time is it by the time we've done all our map research and sketching?
Middle of the day.
Bedrolls, 1 gold a pop, apparently.
Then
It's a
Hang on
high
sec.
quality bedroll.
That was a high quality bedroll. God damn.
Wait, how much
I
is
mean,
it?
hopefully it lasts.
1
That's
gold.
that's at least like what, like North Face, Gore-Tex, something like that.
Wow.
Does North Face make sleeping bags?
I think they do.
Yeah, I think so.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, no, never mind. I was thinking, there's like all the stuff I can think of. We do not have time to do. Like, I was like thinking perhaps we could get some kind of container lined with lead in order to prevent. Or was it? Yeah, because that was what we needed last time in order to hide our magical artifact or protect ourselves from it.
Yeah, lead boxes will hide from scrying. You might be able to get a lead box.
Yeah, but then I realized the things that we're looking for, we're gonna have to carry that box. That does not fit in the bag of holding.
Oh, you know, we could make it work.
Like, that's gonna be awkward at best.
Well, guys, I can think of something that needs doing, but is also an investment. So it doesn't. It probably should consult the party.
Yes.
If you want to knock in my spell book, I need 100 gold.
100.
Yes. For it is not an abjuration, so I do not get the cost and time halved.
Yeah.
And it's a 2nd level spell, 50 gold per level.
I guess we might as well do that. People
Well, yeah, as well. So at the end of this day, there will be a messenger who shows up with the. I think it was it 1500? Did I say?
believe so.
1500. Yeah.
Yeah, 1500 gold reward for dealing with the storm.
Hooray.
I'm honestly surprised that we that what's it called? Dorian Harspur hasn't said or done anything. What an ungrateful guy. Didn't even shower us in gold.
I mean, you know.
No.
I mean, even be.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah. So I guess I'm isolating myself for 4 hours while I copy an experiment with the spell.
Okay. Cool. So in the meantime, if everybody else is just doing shopping and then coming back to the tavern in the evening, yeah, I guess as the rest of you come back, Tiff is putting the finishing touches to the 2nd copy of the Lathman's K map. She sort of like rolls up the copy that she's got, carefully like pins out the other one, and so says, "That is best if we leave that to dry for a little while. But I guess this is yours to keep now." And she hands you the 1st copy.
Excellent.
You're welcome. I'm
Thank-
quite pleased with it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for your assistance, because I would not have been able to do that. Nor had I figured out how to get all of this extra detail, and I'd like gesture to the ocean.
Yeah, that's a little trick I picked up from looking at some of the older maps from back then. They had a tendency to like put little bits in them that could really only be revealed if you knew what you were doing. I don't know whether it was some sort of failsafe or whatever in case they fell into the wrong hands, but it's certainly interesting.
I mean, how do they even do it?
I don't know. My guess is magic ink. I've certainly never been able to recreate it.
But yes, I'm not a cartographer. I'm much more of a historian, so I would not be able to figure that one out.
Well, I guess we all have our own gifts.
That we do.
So, please don't think me rude in asking this, but it's kind of been on my mind since, well, since I first run into you guys. How does a gnome get to be a big shot mercenary leader?
Good question.
Well,
From
We
what I've
all
understood,
turn to look at Grim.
yeah, from what I
Well-
understand of it, he just did it.
He just
well,
Perhaps it's best to let him
He
tell
showed he
Admit-
teamed up with some friends, saved the world, and then just did it.
it does help having some rather extraordinary people. Because, well, not every group of people can walk onto a ship full of Dragonborn and walk off with their demands fulfilled. And, like, just, well, without a scratch, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm still not really sure how you got away with that.
And well, I mean, getting shot at actually went a long way to making sure we got what we wanted. Weird.
A little bit.
I think
Right.
things were going kind of shaky until we started getting shot at.
No, I think we were doing okay.
I fe-
Well,
we
at
had-
least
we-
when I got up there.
We had ups.
Grim.
We had our ups and downs, definitely. But
Yeah.
regardless, it's basic. Well, you set yourself a goal, and
Grim as a
and
life
you go
coach.
for it.
Set
This-
yourself goals and work hard to achieve them.
Well, like he said that
Thanks,
goal, like
Grim.
he had that goal way before you guys showed up.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just you may have sped the process up
Yeah,
by like
made his
100
job
years.
so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like, literally the first day that we met, he tried to recruit me.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Like
Ti-
he's a businessman.
Tiff just sort of smiles and says, I have to say, I'm really impressed. It's most gnomes I've met tend to like to sit at home and read books and tinker with things or do magic, but most of them aren't really sort of the hands-on sort of type, unless it's like farming or that other sort of stuff.
Hmm.
It's
Well-
interesting to meet somebody who's doing things a little differently.
I guess I am a gnome of action.
A gnome of action.
Well, I guess like reading books has always been fascinating. However, the books that I was interested in often, well, involved the art of war to some degree. Admittedly, like I joined the military and that was an experience, but that didn't quite get me what I wanted. So I feel like yeah. It's
That's
just,
that's weirdly
I would almost
relatable.
say it's almost just a natural progression.
Yeah.
It's the only like mercenary company is the only thing left to try, or at least the only obvious one.
And hey, it's gone pretty well so far.
That's working out. Just like next step, the only other option I've got left is be the town nut, I guess. But Yeah.
Tiff chuckles at the comment and just sort of says, "Yeah, I get that. It people said I was crazy for wanting to go off on adventures, but just reading about other people's adventures wasn't quite the same.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not going off and fighting monsters and storming pirate ships, but
well, I would not recommend it. That's and if you ever start off I would not recommend starting with pirates. Those they
Yeah,
know what they're
no.
doing.
Start small.
But yeah, it's,
Yes,
yeah,
so far my track
wouldn't
record with pirates hasn't been that great.
There's always a time to turn it around, though.
But you wouldn't be because you wouldn't be the first one to overestimate their capabilities.
Oh, I definitely
So-
didn't overestimate them. It's
Oh no. Oh, I'm honestly, I'm surprised they picked you up and hauled you around. But hey, sometimes you gotta.
well, I don't think they were exactly looking for me. They were more trying to loot what was left on a sinking ship, and I just happened to be left on it.
Yeah, but they decided not to leave you on it afterwards. That's the. I guess it does show that they still have some. I guess it shows a bit of their, softness.
Well, yeah, they're not exactly the most hospitable people, but they definitely didn't want to leave me to die. Which is something, I guess.
The Chromats get a bad name for. I wouldn't say completely without reason, but yeah.
Yeah, they're
Well, when you listen to someone's enemy, you do tend to get a skewed perception, I suppose.
that's part of why I set out to be an adventurer, actually. It's you hear all these stories about these terrifying people, but I mean they can't all be that bad, can they?
There are always exceptions to the rule.
Some of them can be, but some of them are not.
But that's precisely the point. I mean, they're exceptions. It's
And
No matter there's no such thing as a rule with no exceptions.
I mean, there's got to be like orcs that don't fight people and dark elves that don't like stab you in the back and stuff.
Ooh, how about this one? Right? On our travels, we met a werebear who was masquerading as a village leader and was actually protecting them.
No, but werebears do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they generally tend to be like they tend to like protect their place where they come from and stuff. I thought that was common knowledge.
I don't know, maybe.
LOL.
Yeah, Elizabeth just sort of looks down at the floor. She's like, maybe I had a bit more of a sheltered upbringing than I thought.
well,
I mean, I've never met one, but they're supposed to be like, like the big, the protectors of the forest and stuff. Maybe it's because I'm a forest gnome. I don't know. Maybe it's just the stories that I got told.
What about a dwarf? What about a dwarf who decided he was not gonna follow the family line and be a smith, and abandoned everything to go off on his own in service of a human deity?
I don't know. That sounds reasonable.
You're just shooting and missing here.
Yeah, I'm not doing
I
very
mean,
good at this.
the craziest thing I could think of as dwarves would be to be teetotal.
okay. I think the only bad thing in the world, the most unfortunate thing usually is people that do bad things with good intentions. I feel like that is. You would be surprised. I think that is the main source of problems.
Bad things with good intentions, huh?
Well, because if you thought something was bad, then why would you do it? You think, like, to some degree, you always think you must think there's some good that's going to come out of it. Sometimes it's just for you, and sometimes for everyone, but like the way you get there is
Huh.
can be important.
I guess you have a point.
Well, yeah, I mean, why would you do something if the only possible outcomes were bad?
Self-gain. I've seen that happen more
But-
often.
But then
But,
that
like-
means there's a positive outcome, because you get something.
But
Well, there's
You
a
know,
difference
why would I
between-
go over and headbutt that wall?
Well,
Nothing
there's a
good
difference, I
would come
think,
of it.
between what Grim is saying about good intentions in the general sense versus selfish ones.
Well, I think the problem there is that good is a matter of perspective.
Yeah, it's. This is the thing that I've. Well, I've heard people say the opposite a lot, but the world isn't black and white. It's not that simple. It's everybody has their own thoughts on things. Because I mean, you look at our history. I mean, like elves and humans have been fighting for hundreds of years, and now they're like basically best friends. They can't have been both bad, because then how would they ever reconcile that? It's just not that simple.
No, it's just conflict of ideas. I don't even know how we got on this topic.
Yeah, I have
to
no
be
idea how we got this
Yeah.
conversation.
honest, but,
I don't know. I like you guys. I feel like I can have a serious conversation with you.
Yes, also, now that you've completed that map, I'm gonna admit, I'm not quite sure what else there's left for you to do for us right now.
Oh, okay.
Aside from just be a nice...
Well, you
Yeah.
can always you can still hang around for it, because we're still gonna be here for at least a day, maybe two. But it might also be nice for you to get a head start on whatever you want to do. Whether it is continue down south or head into the Amber Eagle, that's up to you.
Yeah, I haven't
I
decided
think-
yet.
Yeah, I guess...
However, regardless, for your work, I think 10 golds should be reasonable to get yourself going.
I mean, yeah, that would cover a lot of materials and stuff.
At least I assume the others you agree.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Like we'll still be we'll still be around, but this way, then at least you aren't fully dependent on us, which is
Yeah, no,
can
that's
be nice.
that's really appreciated. I would much rather stand on my own 2 feet.
Oh.
Well, thanks. It's been a pleasure working for you, I guess.
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
And you've been most helpful. Considering this map, I think we would probably have hit a reef without you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think
I
you would have been in
more
a
like
lot of trouble.
a reef.
Yeah.
We probably would have hit every single reef.
Well, I don't think we've gone far after the first one.
Well, it depends on how bad it was.
So, I guess my next question is more a matter of curiosity. What are you planning to do when you get there?
Kill
Oh.
demons.
Surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, as the Mercenary Guild, you get enemies to some degree, and organizations that want to mess with you. And currently, one of those organizations has it's a goal on the island, and we're gonna go there to prevent them from achieving what they want to achieve. Those are some. We talked about perspective, but I feel like in this case we can we can all agree that they are bad eggs.
Hang on a second. Where did my dice go? There it is. Okay. She sort of like looks at you, Grim, raises an eyebrow, and says, "I guess these are the bad people with good intentions."
You could maybe say that. They have a twisted view
Well,
of
I
how
guess-
to get to achieve their goals.
I guess, well, I think it's partly we don't 100% know their intentions, we just have to take their word that their intentions are good. They're also just using methods we don't agree with.
Hmm.
I think that's putting it a bit lightly.
Well,
Well,
like I don't want to, and I don't want to tell you too much in case that would put you at risk.
yeah, it's not my place to pry any further. That's just an explorer's curiosity.
It
I mean-
can't be helped.
Sort of like justice towards the map. I mean, just the whole thing of this excites me. Like, what are all these buildings? The mountains, and why
the
are there
buildings is-
clouds?
The
What does it
buildings
all
are
mean?
Exactly what I want to look into.
The funny thing is, we were talking
I've-
about how we were different from most gnomes, and yet we still can't help but explore new things. Except we don't do it in books.
No, yeah, that's my job. Don't you try and steal my job.
Yeah, there's like a moment of like. There's like an exchange of glances between you and Tiff that's just like, yeah, I know that feeling. I relate to that. At which point, yeah, she folds up the remaining paper and ink, like stuffs it into a little leather bag, like swings it over her shoulder and says, "Well, if it's all the same to you guys, I'm gonna find somewhere slightly cheaper to spend the night."
Oh, of course.
Entirely fair.
She waves goodbye and heads outside.
Yes. Right.
So, does
Yeah,
anyone else
and
have a
then-
scene before we wrap up?
Well, Elizabeth probably just referred to look at the map and just be like, there is, of course. I'm not sure if it's catching your guys' attention as well, but there's definitely the one particular structure that's catching mine. What on earth is that tower in the middle of the mountains? I get the feeling that's going to be more than likely going to be our destination.
Perhaps if it's still standing. Or I guess even its ruins might be where we're headed.
Yeah.
Well, classic would be Mage Tower, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
or Sage, or whatever. I don't know why. It's always weird how people store knowledge in towers.
Well, I suppose it's so you can see people who want to steal it coming a bit earlier.
No, I was going to say I thought it was because they wanted to feel important about it.
Probably that as well.
Elizabeth, from a scholarly standpoint as well, there is a certain merit to towers in that it takes you above the illuminations of city-level streets and other things and allows you to study the stars unimpeded, etc.
Yeah. But no, there's a variety of benefits. But I definitely want to look up more on the Isle if I can. If this is the
Fair
first,
enough.
if this is what these settlements are, what exactly was going on here before presumably everyone left, or whatever happened to them.
The fact there were settlements it's probably more concern than anything else.
That's all the more reason to find out what was going on.
Well, this is an old map, right? It could just be before weird things started to happen.
Well, exactly. It's first age. But obviously, if someone has written down somewhere that what those weird things were, that's valuable information.
I do have to say that when we were at the Harbor Master, they mentioned a lot of treasure hunters tried to go here and never returned, which kind of means two things. One, there's probably some interesting artifacts here besides the ones that we're looking for, and two, we might find some remains.
True.
Well, I mean, it does have a lot of features that would make it attractive to treasure hunters, namely the fact that first age settlements were here.
Yep.
Like, this map is potentially 2,000 years old, there's records of settlements here. Any artifacts you could recover from the first age would be immensely valuable if you could get them back. Especially from a place that no one really lives anymore. Like, no one really knows much about these places.
We were aware of the value of first age artifacts. We found a set of dwarven full plates, I believe.
Yeah, isn't it on display now?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Elizabeth just like looks at you like she just sort of looks at you like you're stupid. It's like, you think I haven't spent a ridiculous amount of hours just sat in front of that, staring at it?
Yeah, well, regardless.
But it's no wonder treasure hunters go this way. Getting even one of those artifacts could potentially, well, depending on what it is, could potentially keep you living pretty happily for the rest of your life.
Although, there was one thing I was wondering, but I'll need that. Where on the map are all the reefs indicated, or like, is it kind of just like spread out so you can approach from most angles, or?
Oh, yeah, I didn't draw them onto the actual map because essentially you can find a way to navigate it to land pretty much anywhere along the coastline. It's just that
without knowing where they are, there's a chance we'll hit them.
You wouldn't want to pilot a big ship close to the coast because it would become impossible to navigate, but a smaller scale craft would be able to navigate through them. It's knowing where they are that's the problem.
No, because I didn't know if there was like a massive wall around the island with like a wall, for example, or if there was just like dots that you need to avoid. Like, this is more like similar to like small reefs that you don't want to run into.
Yeah. Imagine sort of like basically because it's volcanic. Presumably, it's like it'll be like spires and like small ranges of things where like hot rock has just bubbled up through the crust into the water and hardened. So it makes navigation difficult, but there's no like physical blockers to areas.
Although, looking at this map, I know we have a climbing kit to help us out, but it does look like there's a lot of mountains.
Yes. I hope we're all up for a nice hike, because I imagine we're not going to be able to avoid them.
Well, I was thinking maybe we should get a second kit.
I imagine we should all have one.
Yeah, I mean,
we should all be ready to make at least a bit of a climb.
Wouldn't be the worst idea.
You can certainly get your hands on one.
Yeah, and I mean, the way that we go about doing things, I can't imagine it will never be useful again in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I imagine looking for safe routes would be something to keep Scarlet nice and busy. At which point she'd probably pet Scarlet.
Yeah.
Well, but regardless, having the climbing kits will help us get up more safely. So.
Oh, of course.
Before we should Yeah, we should definitely see if we can get our hands on. Do we want one each, or shall we? Do we want to share a set?
I
between
feel
two
like it's
people?
best to have one each, just in case we do get split up for whatever reason.
Oh, also, I have just realised, because of the way that the ship you will be taking will be going up, you're probably the easiest places for you to land would be like this side of the island, like the southeastern side of the island, purely because the path leads diagonally up this way up the coast.
Yeah.
So it would be shortest distance would be.
Well, I'm thinking some of these like natural like dips in the terrain would be nice landing spots.
Well, like, I guess we'll see once we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like, considering it's like a day's walk from one side to the other? I don't think it's gonna be a massive problem if, regardless of where we land.
No. So, does anyone have a scene, short roleplay scene that they want to do before we conclude?
I can't think of anything.
Nope.
No?
Cool.
Most of it's concluded.
In that case, yeah, I think we'll bring our session to a organic conclusion.
How's that?
So, I guess my next question is, as a GM, to make my preparation easier, what is the first thing on the island you intend to visit?
Well, if our landing point is the southeast, whatever's left of this settlement.
I think. Well, I feel like it's also going to depend on what what the island looks like. I feel like if this just looks like ruins, like this what's it called, village thingy.
Just say settlement.
Because I don't know, like, is that supposed to be a manor or a temple or?
It's a large, unlabeled building.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Regardless, it's noteworthy.
Well, I
Here's the
guess
thing,
yeah.
I imagine
I
like
guess
it's definitely something to have a poke around in. And if there's absolutely nothing there, then
I feel like we would do walk around the mountains up
Yeah.
to the other side,
yeah,
And
see
then
if there's
go to
something
the-
there.
Okay.
and send it last. Because
Yeah. So basically, we'd go there. If there's literally nothing, head around. If there's ruins there, I mean, from the looks of it, actually as well, it's probably easier to approach the tower from the north. So it probably is going to be a case of go there, go around the east side to this, have a look at this settlement, then head for the tower.
Okay. That's
I'm
helpful.
I'm kind of curious
Because approaching the tower from the south would mean going over the larger mountains or finding an awkward way around.
Well, I think that might also just be perspective because you're looking like the ones on the south look bigger because you see more of them.
I don't know, they also just look bigger.
Well, you
Because, I
won't
mean,
know
look,
until
this
you
one-
actually see the
but
physical
yeah,
island.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless.
I'm just saying, from the looks of the map, approaching from the north looks like it'd be a little easier.
But yeah, after we've visited this bottom thing, then it kind of depends on what we find as well.
Yeah. Especially because the tower is also just closer
But
to this settlement than it is to the southern settlement.
also, if the others have something to say, I don't know. Apparently not.
No, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm pretty much in line with whatever, like, what's being discussed. I'm like, yeah, no, that tracks pretty well.
As long
Well,
as my
actually-
blade finds the blood of a fiend, it's fine.
Wow.
Just, yeah, be careful you don't cut yourself on that.
Just point me in the direction of the bad guys. Okay. Well, I think then, without further ado, it's all that's left here to do is to thank you all for playing, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.